How would you define a word? An independent unit of speech? Then why is will a word, but ed only a suffix? Why is it that bookshelf is written as one word, but book bag only written as two? And what on earth is going on with nevertheless? Well, this is a word facts video. German, at least by English speakers, is often considered to have exceptionally long words just due to regular nominal and verbal compounding. In fact, from 1999 to 2013, the longest word in German was Rindfleischetikettierungsüberwachungsaufgabeübertragungsgesetz. However, while you may think that it's impossible to get such a long word in English, the translation, Beef Labeling Monitoring Delegation Act, is composed exclusively of nouns modifying the next and should therefore be one single word. This is not because words are fundamentally different in German than in English. It is only the way we think of them is different. Instead of looking at German, English speakers should look at synthetic languages, such as Finnish or Turkish, wherein meaning is built into a word, usually a verb, with a series of affixes in a way that is not possible in English, or polysynthetic languages, where this is true to a level such that a single word can be an entire clause. This is true of simple phrases, but also incredibly complex ones. According to the Greenlandic House in Copenhagen, Nalunara suarti tiljokattigifisuarliu lera luasharaminigok means it seems that they were well into the process of talking about founding an association for the establishment of the telegraph station. The difference between German compounding and Greenlandic agglutination, however, is that while in German the meaning is only built into nouns, the Greenlandic words are built from long strings of affixes which come together to have a long meaning but still syntactically function as one word. Why then do we split up the words in English with spaces? Why not just write them all as one thing together and make it syntactically one unit? Unfortunately, that's not how it works, and we'll see with other examples why that is. Latin used to be written as one word. Papyrus and granite weren't cheap, it was culturally normal to do, and the endings of words in Latin made it obvious where one ended and the next began in general, in addition to just having a general sense for spelling and the language that a native Latin speaker would have. Still, there is a difference between not having spaces between words to make one clause and the way that you have the compounding or agglutination, whatever you want to say, for Greenlandic words. And the difference here is affixes. How can we say that I loved you is 3 words, but I will love you is 4 and not 3 as well? Well, there's a few reasons for this. First of all, it's not a direct comparison because there's no future tense in English. It's still technically the present tense with a future aspect, so it's not a direct comparison. But we could just say also that modals and auxiliaries would be part of the word, in this case part of a verb, but that's not quite true. And this is because you can separate it. In I will love you, it can become I will one day love you. The question could then be, well, is one day then an infix? And the answer to that is no, because you can move one day to the end. I will love you one day. Moreover, you can move will to the beginning of a sentence in a question, will you love me? And perhaps the most important reason is that, most important example anyway, is that an answer to said question can just be I will. It drops the verb entirely. It stands on its own. It's its own unit rather than being part of something. You can't say I would in the same way that you can say I will. You'd have to say I did or I would, for example. There is some regularity about what we can consider to be a word and what we can consider to be bound to something else. And usually this relies on how it can be separated from other words in the sentence. But this does lead to a few problems. The phrase, 4 silly large old round blue Argentinian sagely men, sagely appears not to be able to be parsed from men because qualifying adjectives are going to be closer to nouns than any other adjective. And so it might appear that there is no reason that it couldn't be a prefix, or in the case of comely, sagely men, an infix. However, this does lead to the issue of preterite adjectives will lead to some confusion, because while sagely can be moved into the preterite, that is to say, after the noun in, for instance, the men are sagely, the full adjectival serial cannot be moved to the preterite. There are no the men, four silly large, old round blue Argentinian sagely. That is just simply not grammatical in English. So whether or not it can be moved in the first place is not debatable entirely, but it is debatable to some extent. The short of it is that it comes down to the language. Greenlandic has more affixes, it has longer words. But also looking at Book Bag or Beef Labeling Monitoring Delegation Act, or debatably Sagely Men, it also depends a little bit on public perception. This only scratches the surface for what we can consider to be a word and what is otherwise debatable. Still, while there will be a follow-up to this, I want to hear your thoughts and questions about this topic. If you speak another language where things are considered a little differently in it, or if you have your own thoughts on the criteria for what should be a word, write a comment below. Otherwise, keep up with the blog every day on Blogspot and Facebook, and you can support Word Facts on Patreon to get even more content in terms of my own personal theories about language, and to get podcasts about alternate linguistic history that I think could have happened. There's already one episode, so go check it out. Until then, take care.